Hello, hello, beautiful people, mi gente bella. Welcome to another edition of Santana Says, where we talk about everything from Roblox to relationships, everything in between, and the overall journey of life. I'm excited as always to bring you another edition of the show, but also to get into another great topic. And now I also get to start a new month with y'all. So it is first episode of February. We into a whole new month. This year is clearly not playing, and it is going way faster than I expected. Like, I can't believe I literally feel like I just looked up and it was New Year's and literally New Year's Eve, and now look at us already celebrating February. So check in. I'm not sure how things are going. I feel like February is a good time to be like, hey, how are y'all keeping up with your goals? You know, with everything that you were hoping that was on your list, things that you wanted to be able to do. It's definitely a good time for us to, be evaluating that, seeing how things are going. And, and honestly, y'all, if things did not go the way you wanted to in January, fresh start. You can definitely have a fresh start. So it marks the beginning of a new episode and a new journey. So you can absolutely use this time to be able to reevaluate and do all the things as we had mentioned previously, but also just because it's another opportunity to do so. And so I'm excited for that. But also it's February, so I need y'all to remember that it is always something that I love to be able to celebrate because it is Black History Month. And so emphasis on being proud as always to talk about Black topics, to be Black, to embrace empowerment, to be able to, talk about issues that are going on in the community, just all these things. And so I always love being able to talk about Black History Month. But first, I'm going to do a recap for y'all. So last year around this time, I did get into Black History Month. Loved it. I, of course, was like going off. I literally, if y'all recall, I had... And if you haven't go back, check it out. But I had gone into a whole history of, Latinos, the existence, essentially, of Black Latinos. What that looks like, how it plays out, all of those things. I actually got, definitely some. There were some, it was actually one of my more, I would say, controversial. When I first uploaded on TikTok, I remember the feedback was crazy. Like, I definitely had individuals remixing it. Some people bashing and arguing with me, I guess, about points that I was making. It was interesting. I definitely remember getting some feedback, but I ain't gonna lie, that was the first time I was like, oh, I'm making it, because obviously I feel like it's good when you are able to upload content that generates some kind of discussion, and when you're saying something that people can challenge. Like, I think that's actually a good thing. Whenever I started, I knew that if I made a podcast, I gotta be willing to accept feedback, that not everybody's going to agree with everything that I say, and that sometimes it might create some kind of challenging thought. So I actually welcomed it. But I even had some individuals that were related to me let me know. So like individuals in my family who let me know that they had no issue with me mentioning the existence of Black Latinos, but they did have issue with me bringing up specific topics such as patriarchy and white supremacy. They took issue with that. So I also took issue right back with that, because I thought it was interesting that was where I was getting backlash, like as if I was presenting topics that, first of all, are not new. We absolutely have heard about these things for ever almost, but also, well, as long as they have been in existence, right? And as long as we have been subjected to them. But also because the feedback I received was that these are fictitious things that are not rooted in evidence, and that I essentially was presenting with my platform something that is made up. And so, wow, I feel like I cannot argue enough that that's absolutely not the case. You are not hearing from someone that believes these things are fictitious. But I actually think it's sadder when I do hear that, or just when there is ever a concentrated effort on any person's part. So this is any person, any background, who feels that we live in a world where injustice does not exist, does not take place, and is not actually growing, because that's the other thing. We actually are in a world where things like patriarchy and white supremacy absolutely exist. However, there's a lot of forces that are actually taking place in our world, and there are a lot of injustices that happen on a regular basis. I always told y'all, this is not a political show, so no, I'm not gonna inundate you with those, with too much political facts, and because I do not dedicate my career to politics, so I would never try to act like a political commentator when I'm not, or like take on that facade as if that's something that I spend a lot of time researching. No. What I have always told you all, however, is that I am a firm violence prevention advocate. So I am always going to take that stance. And if that includes mentioning a wrong that is happening in the world, I don't mind doing that. Do I use my platform on a regular basis to do that? Do I understand that not everyone is going to agree with that? Absolutely. But is it something that I'm ever going to give up and stop speaking about or having a voice on? I'm not interested. And so I don't ever want to ignore things that are happening. I will always recognize that they are nuanced, however, and there's a lot of things. So for example, there have been mentions that I have made about the Palestine and Israeli conflicts. And like I said, I will never pretend to, here's the thing because there's a lot of things that have also come out of that. And I will never pretend to not know that it's a very sensitive topic for many. And because at the end of the day, as I had, alluded to, a lot of lives are being lost, period. Israeli lives and Palestinian lives. And that is something that I take great issue with because, of course, I wish that no one was dying, at the hands of this and that we had no casualties and that we are not, struggling with how we feel in the world when conflicts like this are taking place. But the other thing is, it's not a new conflict. And so even that, I think that had become a new topic for many, as who maybe had just become aware of it or learned about it. But that was also the fascinating thing to me, is that I actually shared on my Facebook a post that I had made, I shared on my Instagram a post that I made on Facebook 11 years ago. So I have been talking about Palestinian issues, or at least I've been made aware of them for over a decade. And that's just me. That was when I first became aware of the issue and all of those things. And so there's just been too many things that I have learned about that as a result, I'm just one person that once you have that knowledge, I can't go back, and I can never exist without it, or I cannot operate in the world and show up in the world without acknowledging it. Like, that's just where I'm at. And so like, same thing has happened with, Puerto Rico. Same thing has happened with marginalized populations that exist in our world. And like I said, I'm also always trying to challenge that, because we absolutely have issues that are happening to members of the LGBT community. We have issues that are happening every day to disabled individuals. We have issues that are happening to the elderly. And we have issues that are happening with children. And so all of these are populations that are vulnerable, deserve voices, for those things to constantly be amplified. And I think as a society, we absolutely have a duty, to make sure that these issues are being spoken about, that, if we have opportunities that we do, voice them, that we add our voices to what is going on, if we are able to, and if we, believe in it enough, and that we help for some change to be able to occur. And that if at best we can at least increase more awareness among other individuals that aren't aware of these things that are taking place in all these conflicts, especially with individuals that don't always have the access and resources that we do. Because even us as human beings in the world, we may be facing a lot of things, but we do have a lot of privileges. And I recognize that, even though I am a woman, even though I am a person of color, and even though I'm still considered a young adult, in some spaces, maybe on the rise of being older. If you talk to my students, they always like to say I'm older. Y'all, stop telling everybody that I'm knocking on 40's door. Until I'm actually 39, I will not be entertaining that conversation. So I'm happily still in my 30s. But I love what they like to remind me, because according to them, like, at the end of the day, I'm older than them. And so, it makes me older, period. But I love, I definitely have that, but I definitely do have privileges. I am also an able-bodied person that doesn't have to worry about there being accommodations for me when I go anywhere. Like coming here today, I was able to just walk right up, sit down. I did not need a special chair. I did not need, assistance. I didn't require special transportation. Like, these are things that I feel like we don't always think about, and, are also things that I like to challenge about how we can show up better for those where that isn't the case, where that doesn't happen. There are definitely in those spaces, we need to stop thinking that we need to create a world that accommodates those things, when really we should know that everybody should be able to exist in the world and be able to thrive in it and not feel like they're othered or that, they're the problem and now everybody has to now respond to them as the issue, when really there should have already been things in place that does not make that person feel excluded. And so those are the things that when it comes to like diversity and inclusion and all of those things that we talk about, we need to make sure, I would like us to make sure that that is how we actually craft our conversations, instead of making them, judgmental in nature, or again, in us, them, more conflict-based conversation. So that's just something. But that's just one part, y'all. So other than that, though, I'm still very happy, nonetheless, that as a result, we even have things like Black History Month. You know what I'm saying? Now it's a little opportunity to have some celebrations. The fact that it is a new month, and also it's the month of love. You know what I'm saying? For all y'all out there that got your little Valentines, it's that time. So, it's a great time to talk more about love. For all my fellow single people, it's a reminder for us to be on our self-love tip. What you gonna do for yourself? How are you gonna take yourself out? And overall, I just think it's always a great time to celebrate wins. I am still fangirling and smiling for Quinta Brunson, who won that Emmy, and all that, and like took her award, who literally started from, I ain't gonna say the bottom, but we're gonna say BuzzFeed, because that's literally where she began, like did improv, you know what I'm saying, was a comedian out here hustling, doing her thing, had viral, was known as the meme queen, basically at one point, made her book about that, and then rose to this stardom. And I just want to be clear on like how many accomplishments this woman has. Like, she is now, this is the woman on Abbott Elementary, by the way, in case people were like, who is Quinta? Because I ain't gonna lie, when I love that that's, I know her name, but I'll tell you right now, I know her affectionately as Miss Teagues. Like, she's basically, that's who she is. I feel like if I meet her in person, I might end up saying that name first, if I'm being honest. But only because that show has become incredibly successful. It is absolutely part of my self-care routine. I love watching Abbott when I just want to laugh, just have a good time. I love Abbott Elementary. The conflict there is relatable. It's actually enjoyable and entertaining to watch. You are not, because I also had a very firm obsession for the longest time with Law and Order Special Victims Unit, specifically Special Victims Unit. Law and Order, cool, like the main one, I watch that sometimes from time to time. But Law and Order Special Victims Unit has a special place in my heart. And so, especially as a former, still current advocate, but former victim specialist who worked at the Rape Crisis Center, I just loved it. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I knew that, same like I mentioned with you, like things don't always get wrapped up in a bow, you know what I mean? And the case is never 40 minutes. Like, you would never see somebody's life play out over the span, but that's what they got, right? That's what they're working with, 40 minutes. So of course everything's going to look sped up and all of those things, but I loved it. However, shout out to Dr. Thema, who is one of my main inspirations. She actually put a challenge out there about like, if you are attracted to shows like that, you might need to look within as to what is attracting you to a show of that nature, and why you consider that something that you like to participate in on a regular basis, especially like as a nighttime routine or as part of your self-care routine, or like, why do you find comfort in something that is traumatic? And I was like, well, dang. Like, I definitely felt like that was absolutely something that I needed to reevaluate, and like, what kind of things am I introducing to myself? And so how can I make those things more positive? In the form of television is one, in the form of diet, what am I introducing to my body? Like, what activities am I participating in? Am I moving enough? Like, it really did spark a lot of thought for me as to what changes can I make and how can I continue to do that? As I try one thing, if there are other things that I could try, are there things that I can participate in or things that I can enhance, do better? It literally got me thinking about all of the above. And so Abbott, on the other hand, Abbott Elementary is awesome. And as an educator, it's super funny because I'm like, yep, kids do that. Like, I've found myself having conversations like that in the teacher's lounge. I have definitely seen people go off about this. And I actually really appreciate Abbott because it also brings up the charter school conflict, which I have seen as a person who works in a public school. I have seen many charter schools pop up, and I have seen the concentrated effort that is being taken to have that. And I'm not saying that charter schools don't have their benefits. I have seen it play out firsthand, even with my own children, and offering that alternative option, that's available. But the only part I don't like about charter schools is the threat that it poses to public schools. That's the only thing that you will ever get argument from me on, is that I just don't like that part. Do I think that they, have their own, like I said, they're great in their own right, and they provide options, but also alternative funding. And so it can look different. And so there's more opportunity that can provide. Totally understand that part. But as a public school graduate, educator and supporter, I'm always going to want public schools to be around, and I always want that option available to students. And I know that for some that, for the longest, that was actually the only option that many students could exercise. But also in general, I would never want it to be something that students are not proud of. And also shout out to Midori Lebron, because she just got elected very recently had gotten elected to the school board. So I love seeing another fellow Latina, out here being elected to the Cleveland Metropolitan School Board, to be exact, and just seeing those different voices and individuals, like adding again to the conversation, but also increasing, diversity and representation. I love to see it. And so, literally think we can't have that enough, but also just feel like it just increases so much more pride in like what we have and how we can continue to build what is already ours and what we can share with our youth coming up. So love it. But Abbott is dope, y'all. So I love me that show, but I did not realize that Quinta, apart from being such a great character, does her darn thing. Like, she literally like writes on it, produces, like this is her show. So I'm thinking she just is a great star, and that her acting and, approachability, because she's literally so relatable and warm and awesome and comedic, that she was just this great talent. But I'm not realizing, no, she literally makes that show run, like, essentially. So, I mean, of course she has a team. She ain't working by herself, but she does all these amazing things. So I was blown away, and I was like, listen, first win, that I've seen is the fact that she was able to win her award. And I feel like, of course, all individuals should be able to get that. I do believe it represented one of the first wins in general. Like, don't recall exactly which one it was in a while, but it was definitely amazing. And then I know recently Jennifer Hudson had also been getting some attention because she is with Common, and he was on the show, giving her own flowers, even though he was on her show. So of course I'm glad he said the right thing and made sure to pump her up instead of embarrassing himself in front of everyone. But he also mentioned one of his little compliments to her was the fact that she has an EGOT. So she has an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony, which is amazing. So the fact that we are in the company of individuals with these incredible accomplishments, I know John Legend, I believe, is another who has that. It's just awesome. It's awesome to see. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't mind that it's Black women at that, that have them. But of course, we still have our Black males who also are able to, have our great accomplishments. And actually there's a conversation coming up in our community about, there's actually a Black mental health tour taking place here in Cleveland. And I think it is amazing. The speakers are great, the panels, and there's just been a lot of incredible talent, which y'all saw during the Using Your Gift series, for example, that exists here. And it's on all sides, from all backgrounds. But we especially go celebrate the Black ones this month. So I'm just excited to see that taking place. And I just feel like all women in those, or again, I'm sorry, not just all women, but that all individuals of the, of any background, can be celebrated. Like I said, especially those of color, especially those that are Black, can receive their flowers, especially for what they're doing, especially individuals like Quinta, who have such great, incredible work ethic and, are able to do these great things and produce such great productions like Abbott is, because it's coming back on February 7th and your girl is counting down. I can't wait. So there's that. But speaking of getting flowers, I definitely think that is something that we can't do enough, right? For those individuals that deserve it, who, deserve their credit, who put in all this work. And so what was a little bit tragic for me to hear was when Jonathan Majors, who I mentioned Jonathan Majors before on a earlier episode, but I think I at the time was stumbling on his name, so I might have said it, but at one point. However, Jonathan Majors, he has little court proceedings. Megan Good was there to support him. And I'm glad he had a support system. But this man said, caused a little controversy because he essentially said that he was being supported, like Megan essentially supported him, stood by his side like a Coretta. I was definitely one of the individuals who took a little bit of issue to that, just because It's the minimization. In my case, that was the first thing I heard. Like, first of all, Coretta Scott King, who rest in peace and rest in all the power and all the glory, is someone who was not only known for standing by Martin Luther King's side, maybe for some actually, Martin Luther King Jr.'s side. You know, this is the famous wife of Martin Luther King Jr. Maybe for some that is all they know. And so for them, her legacy is that she was Martin Luther King Jr.'s wife. But for someone like myself who admires her activism and everything she stood for and all the great efforts that she led, this woman was a force before she met that man. And she was a force, unfortunately, after his passing, because that's the other thing. He was robbed from us, way too soon and completely unexpected. Maybe not for some, maybe they saw it coming, but it shouldn't have, unnecessarily robbed. And so she absolutely had an entire career. So when you hear someone say something like that, it just makes a mockery essentially of someone who stands for so much more than that and has contributed to our world in such a powerful way and has done so much more than just be someone that stood by Martin Luther King Jr.'s side. The other thing is that she also couldn't even do that half the time. There were actually opportunities like during his I Have a Dream speech where Coretta actually wanted to be there and was told she couldn't by many individuals, including, unfortunately, Dr. Martin Luther King himself. He was telling her that it wasn't always appropriate or safe, for women to march. Their participation was not always welcome. And so she couldn't. So she couldn't even be there during a time where she wanted to be. And this woman was incredibly brave because, first of all, she had her own house burned when she was a child. And then she turns around and marries Martin Luther King Jr. and they have their house bombed, and so like attack after attack, essentially for someone who all she wanted was better rights for other individuals. So, or have we heard that before? So it's just definitely, that threat that presented itself to others when really she essentially wanted to just create more peace, and more opportunities for others was definitely something that I think was always incredibly powerful about her. I think that's something that should be absolutely celebrated. And like I said, not mocked. It shouldn't. So, it was interesting to me. But also, I also applaud her because things that I don't feel like are readily made known to everyone, but remarkable to me are her efforts in LGBT movement. She was also very much a voice for that. She even did a sermon where she mentioned that, gay rights are human rights, and so she was a voice in those things. She was also a voice in the labor movement, which Dr. Martin Luther King also was a voice for. And so these are the things that with the whitewashing essentially of a lot of our heroes, we don't hear that. We hear we should be nonviolent, and we should not challenge the status quo, and we should learn how to get along with one another and not be in conflict with others, which are things that are absolutely true. We should live in harmony. However, when harmony is being threatened and when harmony is not available to everyone in the same way, we are still allowed to be upset about that. But also not just live in the world of being upset, but have concentrated efforts where we are fighting against that. Does that look like yelling or violent acts or using weapons? No, it doesn't have to, because that doesn't necessarily lead to as we can see with our own wars, that doesn't necessarily lead to a solution that is productive. It's not. It doesn't always. I know that Malcolm X, of course, had his, opposing views. And I think, it's nothing wrong with being radical either. But it's just that I know that I also do agree that it doesn't always lead to productivity. And that's just like when I say that, we lean into our anger. That this is something that necessarily helps. But definitely, I think it's great for us to do something about wrongs that we have witnessed. And she was even a supporter of things like the Progressive Party. But because she knew that it was tied to communism, and like many people would, lump those together because of the roots that it had, she couldn't even mention that because she did not want to ruin Dr. King's, legacy and what he was building and his platform and his foundation. And so it's just a lot complicated, behind that. Same goes for Rosa Parks though, so of course a lot of people have minimized her legacy to just simply being on the bus, and of course her seat there. But for those who know, she did a lot more than that. She dedicated her entire life to also fighting and was a pivotal member of the civil rights movement for a reason. And we needed that. We definitely needed individuals that were willing to take that on courageously because they were fighting up against big things. And then begin systems that were absolutely have always been set up to want others to fail, but also movements that need, people that are going to be in these brave positions. We need individuals to, be able to be resilient in those cases, but also be able to be relentless and not want to give up when faced with the difficulties that these, fights brought up for them, because it did. And so and apparently, and you would get like those different threats, and a lot of people would want to do as many intimidating acts as they can against the people to get them to stop fighting, because of course it wasn't in their best interest for you to actually care about, what you care about your issue enough to want to keep doing it. I'd rather eliminate, your strength, make you question what's going on, but also make you be aware of as much danger that could happen to you, and make it seem like it will actually cost you more to continue this fight versus to stay in it. And so essentially, that's what a lot of that tactic was. And y'all know that that's also why I'm always going to take issue with that, because that always is going to tie directly into what we always talk about with relationships. And so whenever there are individuals that use intimidation, manipulation, or any type of harm that they're able to impose, we take issue, and we do not want relationships to ever be based on that. We don't want anyone to be affected by that. And we don't want individuals beating themselves up because they were the recipients of that. And a theme that I will tell you all that has already been resonating, because if you're following, I just want to update you all. I think I had mentioned to you all that I was in counseling, school for counseling, so your future favorite counselor. But I have begun, my internship, so I do get to see clients. I also have this podcast, so I do end up having a lot of conversations with folks. I have the mental health support group that I mentioned to you all, so I get to see individuals there. And I'm a mom as well as educator. So conversations about mental health, I just can't escape them. Conversations about relationships, my whole world, and conversations about things looking healthy is always been the passion. So I'm always wanting to, discuss that and what that can look like, and the things that we should not have to give into, feel guilty about, or think are our responsibility or our faults when they were things that were outside of our control or inflicted by someone that had an intention of, being dangerous or, inflicting some kind of pain. And so that is what I will always want to put out as another reminder. And then the theme. So the theme that I have been coming across is the guilt that so many individuals carry. I was having conversations with, certain individuals about the relationships that they're in, which they are clear. So unlike others where they find themselves in relationships that they don't know are unhealthy, I have had conversations with folks a lot more recently who are clear that they are in unhealthy relationships. So they're like, no, I get it. You know what I'm saying? I've had the education on red flags. I have had education on, warning signs. I have had education on different methods and tactics that individuals use when they're inflicting unhealthy harm onto others. So I'm clear, that I am in an unhealthy situation. I just feel guilty for either being in this relationship, for what the person that I'm in the relationship with is experiencing, or because they have provided for me in some way, and now I feel like I owe them something in return, or because at one point in time they were supportive, whether that was financially or otherwise, or because I chose to start a life with them and now I feel like I need to see it through, and whatever it may be. And so that is going to be, our theme. That's what I want to at least start off this month with is, again, we need to always continue to work on giving ourselves permission to release things that we carry, and release things that impose weight, and things that ultimately hold us back, and guilt, especially for individuals who have done nothing to deserve it, or us feeling like we owe things to people that have actually taken more from us than they will ever be able to make up for, is something I don't want us to do. And it's not something I want us to take with us, into the times. And it's not a way that we can love ourselves. There's no way to really properly love ourselves when we carry thoughts like that, and beliefs, core beliefs that we need to be able to help individuals that harm us. or that when, individuals that have done things to us find themselves in difficult situations, that we have to help those people out, like, because if I'm with them and I made a commitment to be with them, I have to see this through. Like, forget the fact that I'm in pain and I think this is not a good situation to be in. I mean, they did help me out though. Like, they gave me a place to stay, or, they were a listening ear at one point. They helped my kids, or I have kids. Like, I would love for us to give ourselves that opportunity to release those things, to no longer carry those things, and to not believe those things, because those are not things that are true. Those are things that we were taught. And also, that is what I am seeing happen a lot in our world too, is that I'm coming across individuals that have the best hearts, and their kindness is absolutely used as a weakness. It's literally the kindness itself is used as a weapon. You have always been a giving person. And so the person sees that, takes advantage of it. Like, they know that they can ask for something and they know that you will not say no. They know that they can present a sad story and you're going to immediately be moved by it. They can accuse you of being ungrateful or not showing the proper emotion or not being supportive enough, and you are immediately going to question your entire behavior and want to change that narrative as best you can for someone that only said it to get out of you what they wanted. They didn't really care about that. They weren't really noticing necessarily a character flaw in that case. No, they noticed something that was a flaw to their plan to be able to make you more manipulatable, like in a way that could be manipulated or could be used. And so us falling victim to that is not something that helps us in those cases, but it's something we have to be aware of so that we don't fall into that trap. Some of us, again, are making strides and wanting to get out of relationships that are like that, whether it's platonic or romantic, but we don't realize the pull that is still there when that person tugs on our emotional heartstrings or says the right thing to get under our skin, or it makes us feel like we do not appreciate what they have done, and in the process forget about the harm that has also been done and the things that have been done to them. And so, like, if we're going to be going into this new month, right, anytime that we start a new chapter, and knowing that we are being reminded that the only thing we should be celebrating, hopefully, this month are wins. You know what I'm saying? Things like Quinta, the return of Abbott, or whatever is the thing for you that you're looking forward to. I want that to always be the focus. And also, like I said, with love, I'm celebrating love on all parts. I know there's some people that have been, again, some more engagements that have been happening. I know there are people that are celebrating their anniversaries and all of those things. And me, I'm continuing to celebrate, the new discoveries that I keep making, in my own life. And it's awesome. And I'm like happy about it. I'm excited. Every time I learn something new about myself, all these different discoveries, every time I'm able to unlock a new skill or ability, every time I'm able to practice things more, or, be able to help someone as they're on their journey and trying to learn more things about themselves, I love it. And those are the things that give me joy and give me life. And I'm hoping that there are more opportunities for that to happen for you, and with you and with others, that you're able to continue to do that and spread that. Because, we always want to spread that love, with others, but we also want to make sure that we continue to tap into how we can love ourselves and just learn more always about how we can love ourselves, and know that that's something that you can continuously learn about also. Does not matter if you're in a relationship. Does not matter if you've been single for a while. Does not matter if you have no plans of changing whatever status you are in. I just want you to know that you are always still a person who deserves love, right? Deserves support and encouragement. And you deserve to be able to give that to yourself. It does not always have to come from an outside source. So you being able to make sure that you can learn more about that, investigate it, discover it, and enhance it is a great thing that I encourage you to do. And it can be fun, y'all, to like learn more about yourself, take yourself out, like maybe figure out new ways that you can give yourself, you can engage in methods of self-care. These things can always be changed. They do not have to be the same. The routine can be switched up, and your favorite show could go from SVU, Special Victims Unit, to Abbott Elementary, or Kids Baking. Oh, I also love the Food Network, y'all. That's me. That's my jam. Like, it's mindless TV. I used to love reality TV, y'all, but it got a little rough. Like some of the conflicts. I was like, I don't know that I want to keep taking this into my spirit, but it is entertaining. I know that we also live in a world with entertainment. We just got to watch what all we consume, y'all. So consumption, it is important. And what we take in, we got to make sure that it's good and healthy and that it helps us, because ultimately if it doesn't, it's going to make us feel heavier and worse. And it can lead to other effects. So, I'm always put that out there for y'all. But also what I'm going to put out there for y'all is that because it's February, like I said, definitely love Black History Month. And I want to definitely also have more conversations about how can we uplift actually the Black community, which, as you all, for those who have been following and for those who are new, is something that absolutely has a lot of roots in it. Latino roots, Caribbean, life originated in Africa. So naturally, we actually all have a lot of ties to Black ancestry. But it's also something that, again, to this day is still not always celebrated. And so whenever we have a chance to celebrate it, we're going to do that. And we're going to do that loudly and we're going to do that proudly. And so I want to have more conversations this month with individuals who are leading great efforts in the Black community and beyond, but also who are part of efforts to be able to uplift others and what they look like, what it is that they do, how they do it, what made them want to get into it. So if there's anything you want to know, you know what I'm saying, tap in with me. If what I just talked about again sparked, I'm always welcome to that. And so, I know that when I upload, of course, on the Feel Good Friday, I love it. I love that it's out here and for you to be able to consume, take in. But I would always love to know how it sits with you, how it feels. And so anybody listening, whenever, if there's ever feedback you want to share, or things that you want to hear more about, I welcome it. I really do. And I would love for you to be able to share that with me. So Instagram, I'm on Instagram, Santana Says with 1_. TikTok, it's the same handle. Facebook, I am Melissa Santana, but there is a Facebook fan page for Santana Says, so you can like us there, follow us, again, tap in with us and messages, whatever your fancy. And I'm everywhere. I'm also on LinkedIn, I guess if that's also your jam, sometimes I do put Santana Says content on there, but I also have all these other things, hats that I wear, so that's on there as well. But hopefully you can find me somewhere, and so please feel encouraged to tap in, reach out, and let me know anything else that you would like to learn more about, talk about, learn about, explore, any of the above. And as always, please feel encouraged to, love upon yourself, embrace your authentic, wonderful, and free life. And I hope you feel encouraged into this week and any other week that in all the projects that you may be starting. I hope that you start off with this wonderful Feel Good Friday. But if you're also listening on any other day of the week, that there's something that can bring you joy, can make you smile, and remind you how much you matter and how much value you have. So thank you as always for tuning in today, any day that you ever have supported, and thank you in advance for any support that you will show in the future. Thank you.